Hello and welcome to this video from Yala, Canada. My name is Andrea Bailey and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I often get asked, how much money do I need to come to Canada and what's included in the settlement funds? Now, before I answer that question, let me explain what LICO is. LICO stands for Lower Income Cutoff. That's the level below which the bulk of your money will go towards basic essentials like shelter, food, and clothing. In other words, it's the minimum amount you need to manage your life and your family's needs in Canada. So, the purpose of you having to show those settlement funds before you come to Canada is so that the Canadian government knows that you have enough money to look after your family for 6 to 12 months and you will not turn to the government for assistance as soon as you get to Canada. Now, the amount that you need to show varies depending on the program that you are coming under. So, for example, in some cases, you will need to show settlement funds for 6 months, and in other cases, you would need to show settlement funds for 12 months or so. Now, the amount you need actually changes every year. The amounts you need for 2022 are not yet announced. You can simply search for settlement funds Canada on Google to get the exact amounts, but here is a quick thumb rule. Taking into account the current inflation of 4.4%, if your program requires you to show 12 months of settlement funds, you will need to show approximately 28,000 Canadian dollars for one person and then an additional $8,000 for each additional person in your family. So, if your program requires you to show 6 months of settlement funds, you will need to show $14,000 for the first person and then $4,000 for every additional person in your family. Now, of course, do your research for the exact numbers and add approximately 5% for 2022. The other question pertains to what is acceptable as type of settlement funds? What are acceptable funds, right? So they would include bank balance, fixed deposits, bonds, mutual funds, and listed equity shares. Funds that cannot be shown as proof include property, cryptocurrencies. You would also need to be careful about insurance policies because many policies have redemption values that are significantly less than the stated value, so it may not be counted at the full value. You would also need to ensure that the funds are in your name. It should not be jointly held with your father, brother, or any other relative or person. And also, the funds cannot be borrowed. Remember that Canadian immigration has seen every kind of application and trick in the book. So don't pretend that the money is a loan being repaid by your father or brother. Make sure that the funds are genuinely available and untouched for the past 6 months in your account. And that this is so that the case officer has no reason to believe that the funds are borrowed funds. Now, furthermore, ensuring that the funds are unencumbered, meaning there is no claim or lien on these funds and you are in complete control of these funds and you can transfer it whenever you desire. Now, additionally, if you have any debts, for example, credit card debt or personal loans, you need to subtract the debts from your assets and still be able to show that the settlement funds are available. Note that you will have costs related to your application. Make sure that after paying for your English test, medicals, PR and work permit fees, you still have enough settlement funds kept aside and untouched. Now, if you are from the subcontinent, take note that local currencies tend to depreciate against the dollar. So make sure to keep a buffer, and that is to ensure that after depreciation in your local currency, you still have enough settlement funds. Also, let's talk about the bank letter for settlement funds. You will find that there is practically no bank that will ever give you a letter in the template advised by IRCC. You will practically find that your bank is not willing to give a letter stating the balance or average balance over 6 months, the date account that it was open, and that they will transfer it whenever you desire. The reality is that each bank have their own format and that is what they will issue to you. Now that's why it becomes important to make sure that your bank statements that accompany are clear and do not have large credits so that it is very clear that the money in your account is yours and that you haven't borrowed it. Remember that you might have to show settlement funds at several times during the process. For example, if you're coming on a work permit, you will have to show your funds at the time of application, once again when the permit is issued, and again during your PR application process. So don't assume that this is a one-time requirement that you can just borrow, take a bank balance letter, and assume that you are compliant with the process. Finally, I suggest to all my clients that you get your settlement funds ready and kept aside in advance so that when you are applying for your work permit or PR, you do not face issues on this critical compliance requirement. All the best for your application. This is Andrea from Yala, Canada. Stay safe.